Boarding school. Before I get into it, parents, I would like to give you some advice. Before you take your kids to boarding school, sit down and think about the disadvantages and the advantages. Don't just say, no, I heard from my friend to say if you take your kid into boarding school, hey, they're gonna pass, they're gonna be focusing on their studies. Think about their well-being. Before I get into my boarding school story, I'm gonna tell you like what I feel affected me personally. I was spiritually strong, and when I went to that boarding school, it affected me spiritually. And I just, not that I became like savage or evil, or I became a satanic. I didn't become a satanic. The fact that it was mandatory for us to attend the church that was at that school, and we have different beliefs. Different people would say, no, but we serve the same God. But the fact is, we have different beliefs. So that affected me. And when I went back home, I didn't really want to go like to my church because I was just like, ugh. The other thing I noticed is that it created distance between me and my family, like, because that was now my home. The boarding school was now my home. I was there like for 3 months, and I was just going home for holidays when I was on recess. Parents, think about it before you take your kid to boarding school, because right now I'm even thinking like, am I ever gonna take my kid like to university, like them being in a boarding or them being within campus? I worry so much because I know what I've been through. And if you're not strong enough, you would get pressured like to do just about anything. Just sit down and think and say, how is this? Because now you're gonna start blaming your kid, like, you never used to smoke, now you're smoking. Like, dude, you took me to boarding school and I learned how to smoke. You get? So think really hard about it. Like, how is this gonna affect our child? And how is it gonna affect us as a family? I went to this boarding school, and I'm gonna give it a nickname. I'm not gonna give it like its actual name. I'm not gonna say the name. So this boarding school was called Cat Girls Boarding School. I went to this boarding school, and the first thing that someone asked me is, do you know the motto to this school? And I knew the motto because as you are driving in, it's written Cats Girls Boarding School, and the motto is written down there. And I was like, yeah, I do know the motto. And they were like, that's not the motto, girl. The motto is, welcome to Cats Girls Boarding School, where the birds fly backwards. And I was like, hey, Jesus, the birds flying backwards. Okay, what is going on here? Honestly, my childhood was a horror show. I used to see a lot of things. When I tell you, I used to see a lot of things, and a lot of weird things used to happen to me, like sleepwalking. I know sleepwalking is normal, but I used to see things, guys. It was a horror show. Like, I used to experience a lot of weird things and a lot of horror, just horror happenings. So anyways, because of my beliefs, because of what the Bible says, yes, I would get scared as a human being because I'm a human being. I would get scared, like I'll get freaked out if I see something scary. But because of what the Bible says, I'm not the kind of person like who really like it really gets to me. I'm like, oh my God, yesterday I saw a ghost. Or, oh my God, people said this area, there are witches. The world is evil, guys. Like, expect these things. This is the way this school is, why birds fly backwards. So me, believing in the Bible, I was just like, I'm gonna be praying. I don't care. Like, God is here for me. School registration, school orientation, accommodation. I was oriented. I was shown everything. The dormitories was the first thing I saw because I needed to find accommodation. Okay. I was shown the classrooms, I was shown the sick bay, I was shown the teachers' compounds, the matron's place, I was shown the dining room, I was shown everything. I was told everything, like what to do, what not to do. For example, it wasn't allowed like to go outside the school. That means you're out of bounds. So you don't go out of bounds, we are told, unless if you ask for permission. For example, if you want to restock your groceries, because we used to go with groceries. You needed to go with your clothes, you needed to go with a few groceries. So groceries, I don't mean like you go with relishes, like perishable foods. You go with dry foods like cornflakes, powdered milk, tinned food, because they used to cook for us there, right? But you needed a backup of things because you needed to be eating breakfast sometimes. Like after classroom, there was break time. You needed food like cornflakes or whatever snacks you could carry. Would buy snacks and all those things, right? Dry foods because they used to cook for us. I was shown the dormitories, although the dormitories were for different grades, and the dormitories had names. So the dormitory that I first went in was called Kajila. Kajila. Kajila was a dormitory for grade 8. Then there was another dormitory for grade 9, 10, 11, 12. Schedules. So there was a schedule. We were told 4:30 was the time for you to wake up. 4:30. As if you're an adult, eh? 4:30. As tiny as you are, you needed to get up at 4:30. 4:30 you get up and you bath. That's the time that you needed to get up to prepare for your classroom. 5:30 was breakfast. Okay? 8 hours was classroom, but you needed to be there like before 8. So it was up to you. Will you be there at 7? Will you be there at 7:10? 7:30? It's up to you. 10:30 was break time. But break time, they never used to cook for us any food. They only used to cook for us breakfast at 5:30. So hence the carrying of groceries. 10:30, you needed to figure out your own break. Are you gonna buy, because there was a tuck shop as well, are you gonna buy something from the tuck shop, or maybe you have something stocked up in your luggage? So we used to carry the groceries in trunks. Do you have some cornflakes in your trunk or what? So yeah, 13 hours or 13:30, I forgot, it's been too long. It was lunchtime. 14 hours you needed to be back to your classrooms because lessons used to end at, should be 17, I'm not so sure. Classrooms used to end at, I'm not so sure if it's 15 or 16. I have forgotten, it's been too long. 17 was supper, 18 was prep time. So prep time is where you go back to your classrooms to study. Okay, so 18 hours prep time. We used to call it prep time. So prep is short for preparation. Prep time, you go to class to study. 20 prep time was from 18 hours to 20 hours. 20 hours you go back to your dormitories, you do whatever you gotta do. If it's bonding, or if you're hungry, if you have some food in your trunk, you eat some food, whatever you're gonna do. But at 21, it was lights off. It was time for you to sleep. You needed to be in bed. Like the even prefects come in, like lights off, and they'll turn off the lights, and you needed to be in bed. It was mandatory that you sleep at 21 hours. Not until after some time is when like people got some freedom, whereby no one would come tell you like, why are you not sleeping? But it was mandatory that 21 hours you have to be in bed. I had gone there in term 2 because term 1, I don't know whatever happened. So I had gone there in term 2. Like I was late. So it was a good thing for me because since my friends were there in term 1, they learned more than I did. So they had to teach me, which was good for me because it was a different experience for them. The fact that they were there in term 1 and they had to learn things on their own. But for me, they had to teach me. Food. The food was horrible. The food was what? Horrible. That's why sometimes people prefer preparing their own food because they know when preparing this food, I'm going to wash it. Okay? Or I'm going to tell that this food is rotten and I'm not going to cook it. But if it's someone else cooking for you, they don't care. And I told myself, I'm not going to have a maid. Whether I get married, I'm not going to have a maid because I want to be cooking for myself. Because I've seen how people cook when they're cooking for you. They don't care. Like, they won't wash them tomatoes, they'll just chop them. They won't wash them onions. Whilst you wash tomatoes, you wash onions, you wash vegetables before you cook. They'll just chop and cook for you. And that's how the food was cooked. Guys, if I tell you, when you're eating your food and you find stones, you find sticks, you find cockroaches. It's okay if I find an insect, like maybe a beetle. But a cockroach, that thing is, if someone is preparing food for you and they don't give a damn, even if they blow their nose, because if you're cooking for yourself, for example, and I blow my nose, I know that I need to wash my hands. I need to wash my hands. Now imagine someone cooking for you, they blow their nose, worse yet, they're using their own hands, and they continue chopping, and they're sweating. They're not gonna go outside and wipe. They'll just wipe and flick it and it will go in your food. And there you are chewing on the food. The food was horrible. It was hard for me to get used to because I was coming from home where we used to prepare nice food, clean food. And here I was eating, oh my God. But after some time I got used. So here is the thing now. This food was just cooked. It was up to you now. So this is, there was a word that we used to use to say makonko, like concoctions, like mixing up things. But we used to call it makonko. So it was up to you. That's why there was a need for you to come with your own groceries. Because if the food is not delicious, now it was up to you to make it delicious. So here is the schedule now for food. Although I don't remember it like in order, the way it was, but there was cabbage. And when I tell you, if that day they tell you today we're eating cabbage, it's just vegetables, it's just cabbage. There's nothing else. It's not like, no, we're eating cabbage with beef, we're eating cabbage with chicken. It was just shima or pap with cabbage. So there was a day when we used to eat cabbage in the afternoon, and then in the night I think there would be beans. So let me just mention the meals anyway. So there was cabbage with shima, there was beans with shima. Then there was a special day, and people were always happy on that day when we were eating beef. There was a day when we used to eat beef. There was a day when we used to eat chicken. Although chicken, I'm not so sure if I remember well, but I think it was once a month or once every 2 weeks. I have forgotten, it's been too long. There was a day we used to eat shima with chunks. There was a day when we used to eat shima with eggs. If I tell you my favorite day is when there was shima with eggs, you can imagine someone getting excited eating eggs. You're like, yeah, at least we're eating eggs today. Because my worst day was eating cabbage with shima. I'm like, dang. It would be up to you. For example, if you're eating cabbage, if you have some tinned food, then you put some tinned. So usually for me, if there was cabbage, I liked eating it with tinned fish. And then if there's beans, I liked eating the beans with tinned beef. And then sometimes sometimes I used to eat, imagine the tinned beans that's meant for breakfast. Sometimes I used to eat it with shima because the food is just horrible. And they're like, I can't eat this shit. So you just open up a tin of beans. Excitement when you just hear today we're eating eggs, today we're eating chunks. That was my favorite, eggs, chunks. Beef not so much because sometimes it was just boiled and like it's just been boiled and tomatoes have been thrown in and onions, but it's not, the gravy is not even gravy, it's just water, like brown water. But sometimes the beef was cooked really well and I'll be like, damn, what was up with these cooks today? And my other favorite was chicken. It was exciting. Like, today we're eating eggs, guys. There was a day when we used to eat rice. That was also a special day. So if they cook rice with something that you don't like, then you would also open up a tin of something, maybe tinned fish, tinned beef, tinned beans. Breakfast, they used to cook samp or sample. Which one is the correct pronunciation? Is it sample or samp? So for those of you that don't know samp, it's maize. It's maize that's been shelled and it's been peeled. Like, there are no peels on the maize that's been shelled, and it's been pounded a little bit, then it's been boiled. That's samp. So that was for breakfast, and it was up to you to put sugar, because they used to put sugar but it wasn't much. So you put sugar, and if you have some powdered milk, you put some powdered milk, you put some peanuts. From the two things I've talked about, the schedule and the food, from these two things you had to learn time management. Secondly, you had to learn survival skills. They say charity begins at home. If from home your people, your parents, your guardians, they didn't teach you how to manage your time, the first few months you are going to be having a very hard time. And there are some people, in spite of you teaching them how to do something, they still carry it with them the rest of their life. They would never learn like how to manage time. They'll just be the same. Whether they've been there for 5 years, someone is still late for class, someone is still late for meals. So you had to learn time management. And for me, it wasn't so hard because from home, I learned already how to manage my time. And I was like, thank God, because I used to complain at home. Like, you're going for a certain event and you're there 3 hours before the event. And I'm like, but why? we're here 3 hours before the event. I'm dozing, I'm tired, I feel like I'm gonna sleep. But I was glad. I was like, thank God. So it wasn't so hard for me. I would actually like make it on time. I would be in class way before the time. I would be at the dining, but at the dining I never used to get there like way before time. I always used to wait for the bell to ring and then I would go. Prep time was for you to study, and if you knew what you were there for, you are going to study. But there were some people who never used to study, and it wasn't mandatory. No, and but sometimes teachers used to pass through, like if they hear some noise, because if you're studying, there's not supposed to be noise in the classroom. But it wasn't that strict to a point where a teacher would come like, "Are you studying?" It was up to you. So for those who knew what they were there for, they would study. Those that needed to, like just chat, they would be there chatting. When the first time was over and I went home, I told my guardian, I don't want to go back there. Like, I'm having a hard time. Yes, I was having a hard time because this was something new to me. It wasn't something that I was experiencing at home. But my main concern was my spiritual life, because I was being forced to go to a church that we had different beliefs with, and I saw myself like becoming weaker and weaker every day. I stopped studying the Bible every day the way I used to. I just stopped studying the word of God, and it was okay with me like to go a whole day without studying. But I used to pray, and I wouldn't forget, because remember that place was a horror place and no one forgets to pray if you're in a if you're in a scary place. I always used to pray. But studying the Bible, I was like, Mom, I don't want to go back. I feel like I'm becoming spiritually weak. And she was like, okay, we'll think about that and then we'll let you know. But it was non-negotiable. I still had to go back. And I got used. The culture at that school, I'm not so sure if it's for all boarding schools, but the culture at that school, for if you're a grade 8, there was when a nickname, you are a queo. It was called queo. They don't call you grade 8, you are a queo. The culture at that school, the thing that I was thankful for is I'm a very stubborn person, and I'm not one who would get pushed to do anything because I'm younger than you, or you just wouldn't push me. So the culture there was, if you're in grade 8, you are literally a slave. Like, a person in a higher grade than you would come, especially grade 12s, and they would tell you, I want your food, and you have to give them. Maybe I want you to plait my hair, if you know how to plait hair, and you had to do it. You just had to do whatever they ask you to do. And me being stubborn is what helped me survive at that school, and even in any other situation. Me being stubborn, me being talkative, because I'll just answer you and you'll be surprised, like, this tiny girl is answering me. That's how I survived. I'll give you a scenario. There was this girl who was known at that school. I'm just gonna give her the name Mary because I can't think of any other name. That's the only name that's coming up. This Mary girl was known to be the most scariest grade 12, and she was a bully and she would always get her way. This Mary girl comes. I'm sitting on my bed and we had lockers where you would put your things. Like your clothes, you fold up your clothes and you put them in the locker. You put your cosmetics like lotion, roll-on, combs, and all that. I'm seated on my bed and this Mary girl opens my locker without my permission. Usually we would leave the lockers locked if you're not around, but if you're around, it will just be open, because how are you gonna manage, like, you lock when you need something, you open? That was cumbersome. This Mary girl comes, she opens my locker without my permission. So at first I let it slide because I thought maybe she thought it was someone else's locker, because the thing is, you would literally be friends with anybody in any grade. It wasn't just restricted to grade 8 being friends with grade 8. You'd be in grade 8 and you have a friend in grade 12. You'd be in grade 8 and you have a friend in grade 10, 11, 9. Okay? So I actually don't remember this girl's name, her real name, and I was about to mention it. So I was like, Mary, may I help you? Like, what are you looking for? And she was like, I don't need your permission. I can just get what I want. And I told her, Mary, did you buy these things that you're getting from my locker? And she was just like, I just have to get what I want. I don't need your permission. And I was like, Mary, if you don't put that back, I don't really remember what she came to get, but I was like, if you don't put it back, I'm going to go to the headmaster and I'm going to report you. And she was like, and the people in the dormitory were surprised because people were scared. People were scared, like even if they reported, they were scared to say this person would still come for me, like you reported me, blah blah blah. But I stood my ground because I knew if I reported her to the headmaster, even if I went back to the dormitory, why would she approach me again? It means I'll report you again, meaning you would get suspended or expelled. Have your own things. What makes you think, or what gives you the right to come into our dormitory and you'd get anything you want? Do you know me? Why are you getting my things? Do I know you? Guys, if I say I was talkative and I'm still talkative, you can't manage me. I don't remember really exactly what I told her, but that's what I can remember. I told her that, and she was just like, "You're mfana, I was at you," and I was like, "Bring it on, Bish." I didn't tell her that exactly, but that's what I said in my head. I'm like, "Bish, bring it on." Me defending myself by being stubborn and by using my words and being brave is what saved me from being a queer in this boarding school. There are very many other encounters until these people just let me go and they couldn't bully me anymore. And I'm not trying to say like I'm the one who changed everything, but I feel like people now started standing up for themselves because of me. People hated me at that school. And the good thing about me is I'm not the kind of person who cares like if you hate me because I'm not doing what you want. I'd rather you just hate me. Making friends in boarding school is very easy because when you're young, making friends is very easy, guys. It's very easy, like you don't care about anything. There are no grudges. Of course, at some point we used to argue, which was normal, but you would always get back. It's not like the way it is nowadays in your adulthood. If you just have a difference with someone, how an inkani. If you get back, then it's good. Ninkani, you will always end up separating because maybe the other one doesn't want to hear you out, and even if you've been good friends, you end up painting yourselves as bad people, like that girl wasn't a good friend, but you've been good friends, and you just want to paint your friend a bad person. Like, why do that? So making friends was very easy. It was very easy. I found myself like being friends with everybody. There was really no group like these are my friends. I used to get along with everybody. Like we always had something to talk about with, even if we didn't have anything in common, you'd always have something to talk about with anybody. You needed to take care of yourself. You needed to wash your clothes. You needed to always be clean. Hygiene. You needed to take care of your hair. It wasn't allowed like to plait your hair there, like using extensions, but there were days it was allowed for you to plait your hair in cornrows mostly. That was allowed. Cornrows and maybe braids, but using your hair, not using extensions. Braids, cornrows, and twists, that was allowed, but on specific days. So it was allowed from Tuesday to Thursday. Monday, Friday, your hair is not supposed to be plaited, it's supposed to be combed. So you needed to be really good at taking care of yourself, and you really needed to be clean. So I was at a government boarding school. It's different for private boarding schools. There are some private boarding schools where they used to do everything for everybody, like washing your clothes, cleaning your dormitories, but it wasn't like that. You had to do things on your own. Hanging of clothing. There were limited like clothing lines. So if, for example, because people mostly used to wash on weekends, you find that the whole school is washing on over the weekend, meaning those clothing lines weren't enough for everybody. So it was up to you to think and improvise. Because when are you ever going to wash? When are you ever going to hang? So the school had a wire fence and we used to hang our clothes. If you find the clothing line is full, you have to hang your clothes somewhere. So we used to hang our clothes on the wire fence. Thinking skills, survival skills, improvising, improvise, like think outside the box. The building had like planks, you know, those planks that hold the roof. We would also hang things up there. Improvise. Where else can I hang? We used to hang in trees. We used to hang on the grass. You know, like when there's a lawn of grass, you go as long as it's clean. You have to check is the grass clean because you might end up putting your clothes on poop. So we would hang the clothes like you just spread your clothes on the grass right there on the lawn. Lesbians. The school was swarming with lesbians. This is something I learned in school. I'm saying so because way before my school time at that school. And okay, I learned about homosexuality in the Bible, but it wasn't something I used to picture like, oh, a girl and a girl or a boy and a boy. Nothing. But when I went there, people were open with each other. Some were secret. I was like, okay, people do these things. I was being told stories like those two are a couple, and we actually see them, or sometimes we hear them doing this, and I'm like, wow, okay. The people that I found there, they told me, girl, you need to be careful as you're at this school, because there are girls older than us that take advantage of us. I remember at one point, like the headmistress at that time, she even announced to say there are girls molesting other girls, and I was like, this shit is real. So that my friends told me, like, you need to be careful in the way you dress, in the way you carry yourself, because these lesbians spot, and if they spot you, it's either like they're gonna ask you to be one of them, and if you refuse, it's gonna be a problem. And I'm like, why would someone force me to do something that I don't want? But anyways, I just took those measures that I was given by my friends, because they told me they hunt, like they'll just see the way I'm dressing, if it's provocative. Yeah, if it's provocative. They will hunt you. They will hunt you. Yeah, pray, my friend. But anyways, at the time, me and my sisters, anyways, we never even, like, we weren't really exposed to that kind of dressing. We used to wear baggy things. Like, if you look at me, you just be like, oh, she's pretty, but you wouldn't feel anything, because I will not move you with the clothing that I'm wearing. It's baggy and it's big. I remember we had these Hey Mama skirts. Like, it was a big size, but we used to wear them. Like, it was for someone who's like thick, but that's the size they bought for us. A Hey Mama, a loose Hey Mama. So that school had, it was full on lesbianism, and there was demon possession. So my friends told me, you have to be careful, because there were days when there was entertainment, like we would entertain ourselves as a school. We'll go in the school hall based on what you've chosen to entertain yourselves on, if it's acting or if it's dancing, but it was mostly dancing. And I know how to dance and I love dancing, but my friends warned me, and they were like, don't expose yourself like that. Here there's even like demon possession, like people get possessed if you're just spotted. Like, if they just see potential in you, if they just see potential in you, these lesbians or the demons, you would, and it was real. I'm not even exaggerating. These things are real. These things we watch in movies, like, yo, exorcism, what, the nun. These things are real, guys. I don't know if they were literal demons or people who were already involved in this demonic stuff. If they spot you, they are going to possess you, or the lesbians will like initiate you in their stuff. This is what brings me to the horror stories, because there was a lot happening, and the only way I survived is I depended on God, prayer, and even though I became spiritually weak, I was always reading the Bible. And I was always praying. I survived in that boarding school because of God's protection. Whatever you watch, you guys, these videos when people are expelling the demons, these things used to happen, and I'm just like, I can't wait to get out of this school, because those things used to freak me out. I'm like, this is just freaky. People would get attacked by demons, satanists, witches. People would see visions, like scary things, ghosts. People would get raped by ghosts. Imagine getting raped by, not getting raped by a ghost, but getting raped by a demon. And these things are real. Like, when someone is telling you, you think, yo, you're just telling me a story. These things were real. Not that I was a witness to them, but my friends would tell me about it, and you'd find that the people that were affected would actually be moved out of that school. This is not an exaggeration or a story, because if you remember, even in the Bible, angels used to fly down to earth to come and have sex with human beings. So it was so unfortunate. So many things used to happen. I wouldn't get into it, but I survived, and other people survived as well because of God's protection, honestly. If it wasn't for God, it would have been so traumatizing for me because, ish, man, going through something like that and seeing scary things, it's not easy to handle as a kid. So I'm just glad I survived it. There were different types of entertainment. There was also something called Chigubi. So this Chigubi thing I never even used to go to because my friends told me don't even try to go there because people get possessed, people get initiated by lesbians. I'm just like so this what used to happen at that Chigubi thing is it was more like a club. So people would like use the dining room, put up music, or sometimes they would use the school hall. They'll play loud music and they'll start dancing and acting the way people do in a club. And people would actually even, you know what happens in the club? People would actually even start kissing whilst that chigubi, kissing each other and doing things to each other and just dancing. So that's why now people used to spot the people they wanted. If they were a lesbian, they'll spot you and they'll think you have the potential. I'm failing to pronounce like the actual word. If someone is a satanic, sorry, okay, I remembered. If someone is a satanist and they spot you and they're like, this one has the potential, they'll approach you or they'll initiate you. So that's why people warned me. My friends warned me about it. Like, never go to that chigubi. It was called a chigubi. Apart from that kind of entertainment, sometimes they used to bring us the TV and would put up movies and would watch movies. Very, very bad place for you to be, honestly. You needed God, you needed to be prayerful. If not, because people work with opportunities. If they see your weakness, that's why my friends warned me because they were there before me. Remember? They want me to say, don't show any potential of any kind. So if you show whoever wanted what from you, they would always approach you, they would initiate you. You start getting attacks in the night, like people, ish. It was horrible. So we survived by God's protection. We always used to pray, I always used to pray, and that's how come I survived, honestly, because I never experienced any attacks. I never used to see anything, and I never experienced anything of that sort. And I'm so grateful because I know that was God protecting me. And I'm not saying the people who weren't protected, like maybe it's because they weren't as prayerful as me, or maybe they didn't receive God's protection. I don't know why it never happened to me and it happens to them. I have no idea, but I'm just grateful that God protected me to that extent of me not experiencing the attacks, seeing witches, seeing ghosts, being attacked by whatever. I'm just so glad and I'm so grateful. Remember I mentioned going outside the school was out of bounds? It meant you are out of bounds. You aren't supposed to be out unless you ask for permission, and they actually used to give permission slips. But there were girls that used to go out of bounds, like just to do different things. Some had a good cause. There are some of my friends who used to go out of bound to see their families since they lived in the same town. Some used to go and buy groceries. Others used to go out of bounds, like to go and see men and to see boyfriends. And by that time I was very judgmental because I don't know if I can call myself a good girl, but not really, because I wasn't exposed to what they were exposed to. People the same age as me and in the same grade as me used to have sex, and that was weird because we were still young. Imagine a grade 8 or a grade 9 like having sex with a man who's old enough to be her father. That was so weird to me. And yes, I was judgmental. And there was a friend that I used to tell off, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you're still young. Like, why are you doing this and all that? But girls used to go out of bounds to go have sex and to look for money. And I never did. I never went out of bounds because I'm a rule follower. And even if I needed something out there, I never ever asked for permission because I never needed to go out there. If I needed something, I always used to contact my guardians, and They would send money, then I would get whatever I needed. Not only did girls used to go out of bounds, but if those girls were wanting, some would be expelled depending on how critical the issue was. Some would be suspended. Some would just be punished. And some girls, after the rules like got really strict, going out of bounds, I hear some girls used to sleep with the guards, and I'm like, it's even right now. I'm not saying back then it was weird for me to think about. Even right now, I think about it and I'm like, but why would someone sleep with, like, you're 13 years old or you're 14, depending on the grade? Because even 17 in grade 12 is too young. You're 17 years old and you're sleeping with men old enough to be your dad, and you're sleeping with a guard. So I used to think to myself to say, is the sexual appetite this high for them not to manage, like, to stay without having sex? It was The school always used to carry out pregnancy tests, and I was always happy and joyous, and because I knew I never used to do anything. I was young, I was still a virgin, I was still sealed up, so I never had anything to worry about. The school always used to carry out pregnancy tests every term when we report for school. And there were some, since I mentioned that some people used to sleep with men, some people used to get worried. And I'm like, this person and me, we are the same age. How is this person opening themselves up in this way? If you were found pregnant at that time, the school used to expel such people. Teachers that used to sleep with students. Okay, but schools in Africa, maybe in other African countries, maybe they take this rule like very serious and they put up strict measures so that such doesn't happen. But in my country, Zambia, I don't think there's such strict rules. Teachers were sleeping with minors. How do you think it's right for you to sleep with a minor just because that minor looks like old enough to be your girlfriend? Teachers would date pupils, pupils would date teachers, and they used to sleep with each other. I just used to hear some of us, I'm not gonna say like some of us were good girls, but I'm not also gonna say like some of us were brought up with good morals, because I don't know why those people used to do that, so I don't really like wanna judge them. But some of us used to get these stories like, do you know this teacher and that student are dating and they sleep together? And there was a time when a certain teacher was found with a certain student having sex in a certain classroom. No, not in a classroom, in the teacher's office. And I was like, okay. And for me, I just used to see like some signals here and there with some teachers, but none of them ever approached me. And I told myself, you better approach me. Just approach me so that I just shoot you down. Because just approach me so that I shoot you down. That's what I used to tell myself. But I used to see some signals here and there. But for me, I've always grown up like a very tiny person. Even right now, like I'm way old, but I still look like I'm a teenager. So now imagine me being in grade 8. I'm sure I just used to look as if I'm in grade 2 or something. So maybe that's why the teachers never used to approach me. They're just like, this kid is too much of a kid. Like, there was even nothing appetizing to look at on me. I think the only appetizing thing that someone would say, this kid is cute, is my face. I never had big boobs. I never had big bums. Not until in grade 12. No, in grade, I think 10, 11, 12 is when I started developing like big bums. But when I'm wearing a uniform, they weren't that big, like for them because my uniform was, I think it's the uniform that was very big and baggy. But 10, 11, 12, I think it was 11, 12, grade 11 and 12 is when I like grew big bums. So there was nothing appetizing. I think that's why they didn't approach me, those teachers. But otherwise, I would have shot them down. Maybe they knew, this girl, I think this girl is too much of a good girl. She's gonna report me, you get. So I'm glad they didn't approach me. Thank God. Remember how I said in the beginning that you needed to have groceries? We used to buy groceries before you get into school. And our parents also used to leave us pocket money. Just in case that food finishes, you have some pocket money like to restock. Okay? So there was this term that we used to use in boarding school. It was called kujama. Kujama, like jamming. Something is jammed, it's stuck. These terms I was mentioning, including this one, are English terms. You remember I said makonko? That's concoction, right? It's an English word. These terms are English words, but we just like vernacularize them. So kujama meant you run out of food. Wajama iwe. Like you run out of groceries. That's what that term was. So when you run out of groceries, it was either you call your parents to say, guys, najama ine, like I don't have groceries, I need to restock. Or if your parents couldn't manage, or if they just don't want to get you groceries, at least if you have a friend and you share food, your food is done, you can now move on to your friend's food. That was kujama. Then here is another word, although this one is not an English word. We used to say kuswaya. So kuswaya meant you inform your parents, mom, dad, I don't have food, and then they come. There were some parents who used to come like right away, especially those that used to live in the same city as our school. But if you had parents that used to live like far away, like my parents, it took planning. It was either they just send you money or they actually come in person and bring you the groceries. So that's what kuswaya means. So kuswaya is you tell your parents, my groceries are done, and they come driving from wherever they are and they bring you groceries. Then you'll be seated on your bed, all gloomy, and your friend will just come like, Kat, you're being caught by the matron. And you go to the matron, you're still looking gloomy, and the matron will be like, your parents are there in the parking lot, they're waiting for you. You're like this, and you're like this, and she's like, my parents are here. So bakuswaya. So you go right in, my parents are here. That's why. Like they have unjammed you now. They've swayed you, they have unjammed you, they've brought you the food. Girl, bakuswaya. The last thing that I'll talk about is something we used to call luyo. So luyo meant you close schools and it's time for you to go home. Like luyo, we're going home. We used to call it luyo. Yeah, so luyo, there was what was that? There was Luyo's Eve. So you know the way we usually say Christmas Eve, like a day before Christmas. So luyo, like the next day you have to go home, you all have to vacate the school premises. We used to call that day Luyo's Eve. Guys, that day was the best day. Like it was exciting, everyone's just happy, they're packing, they're like, I'm going home finally, like I'm leaving this shithole, I'm leaving this horror place for a while at least. We only used to be on recess for a month, but you're just like, let me just take a breather, guys. Like you're happy, you're packing. It was both a happy and a sad moment. For some of us who don't like goodbyes, it was a bittersweet for me. Like I'm gonna miss my friends, and those who are most closest to her, like I'm gonna miss my best friend. It was a happy day, guys. Those usually, and on Luyo's Eve, we usually like used to go to the teachers. If you do get along with a certain teacher, we would go to the teachers' compounds and would cook like real food now, not the tin food. Would buy food from the tuck shop. You buy some rice or you buy some pasta, and then you buy some relish, maybe meat, sausage, chicken. You go cook. That was Luyo's food. Would cook, guys. You cook real food. You start packing. Once you're packing, guys, you're dancing. Oh my God, you're singing. It was the best day of our lives. And Luyo's day now, the day when you need to go home, was the best day. Like, I'm going home today. So going home, it was either your parents send you transport money and you have to get on a bus. Usually the school used to book buses for students, or you had to go in town. It was up to you to book a bus. Or if your parents drive, they would come pick you. So usually my parents used to drive. Sometimes they used to send a driver. But the only time I ever went home like on a bus was in my last grade, in grade 12. After I completed my grade 12, I actually missed that school because I got used now to living that life. I missed the school. I missed everything about it. Like I missed the teachers. I missed the experience. I missed my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna miss my friends. Like in spite of how shitty this place is, I'm gonna miss it. But again, it was a relief. I'm like, thank God I'm going. because of the bad experiences, I'm like, thank God I'm going home. So that's it about the boarding school thing, guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like, share, and comment. See you on the next story time. Bye.